all
can't
of them.
speculate.
But at least date.
Do you know who Dolores Del Rio is?
Yes.
She's a movie star from the 1930s, and very interesting when you talk about body image with women. So back in 1931, Photoplay magazine put a picture of Dolores and said that she had the best figure. And I don't know if we have that picture to bring up, Stuart. I've got it here. Look at her.
She's like
curvaceous,
super curvy,
curvaceous and gorgeous. And I think today, by today's standards, people might say that she's on the heavier side.
It's like Marilyn Monroe. She was a size, what, 12? And she was considered this huge sex
there's
symbol.
still nobody to top her. I'm sorry, I don't care. She's still the
Iconic.
epitome of
She's
the
iconic.
She is. Nobody can top her. They try.
So what do you think happens when that's considered sexy and the best figure in Hollywood then, and now we look at people who are, you know, much thinner, and I think it's really an unattainable body image example.
Well,
that
look at
women
me.
have
Look
to-
at me. I'm overweight. Look how sexy I am.
I want to know what
sexy girl.
changed, though. What do you think
Sexy.
changed?
I mean, obviously we follow what the trends are. So if you look at magazines
And the trends
the
come
runways,
from the fashion designers.
Yeah, and
No,
they
they
come.
don't.
Yes,
And
they
you can't blame
do.
fashion designers for not thinking that that's. I'm going to totally argue with you on this, because fashion designers aren't promoting that we should wear like nipple tassels and small bikinis, and that is what's sexy and that's what's provocative.
Well, some of them do very provocative clothes. The
Name
Italian
5.
designers. I
Name
can't
5.
name any of them, but I watch.
I'm just saying,
I
don't
watch.
throw this, and don't the fashion
I
industry
watch
might.
TV.
The fashion industry might have something to do with like girls having unhealthy body images as far as being too thin.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, but I'm saying as far as you're talking about the clothing and what's sexy, that has nothing to do
but
with
not-
the fashion
okay,
industry.
but not clothing. But really, don't you believe that that's kind of what establishes kind of what what look is in? Because think about it. We for years it was kind of that real skinny, thin look because that's kind of what we saw on the runways.
And that was brought on
Right.
by Twiggy.
Twiggy.
Twiggy was the first.
Twiggy was the.
Wasn't she?
In the
Twiggy
50s?
was the first.
She was the poster
really
child in the
skinny.
news
In the 50s
to
or
Andy
60s.
Warhol.
And also Audrey Hepburn, who was so petite and slim, and God, nobody looked better than she did. And so we looked at that. But Twiggy came out with big eyes, and she looked like she'd really been. She was kind of anorexic looking.
She had this very frail.
Yeah,
thing
that's
that's
about
not
right.
healthy. But think about today. Look at the power. So now you have these reality shows where the Kardashians come to play. All of a sudden, having bigger, fuller hips, it's in, right? You get Jennifer Lopez who breaks through. Beyonce who breaks through. And all of a sudden, it's like that's how we all want to look. And people are getting butt injections.
Adele,
Have y'all
yeah,
heard about
that's a
that?
good example.
Adele. People are getting butt injections. So that
Charles, did you know that?
People are
That
getting
people
butt
are getting
implants.
butt injections.
they're getting. He's like, oh, didn't know about that.
But Charles, they don't hurt.
Until you sit down. I just think it's amazing, even for me, like coming through in like the 80s, early 90s in pageants. I always thought I had to be like really thin and narrow. Well, as an African American woman, my body frame doesn't necessarily like fit that mold, right?
Yeah.
And I used to struggle with, in pageants, people saying, well, if you just could lose 5 more pounds, if you could lose 10 more pounds.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, I know like there was a cover on GQ magazine. Beyonce was on the cover, I think last month, the month before, and Scott looked at it and he's like, wow. I mean, every guy looked at that and said, wow, and it made me feel better because she's not stick thin. She doesn't have a boy figure. She is a woman. She's got hips, and I'll tell you,
And I
as
think
a
if you
girl
ask-
with hips, it just makes you feel better.
If you ask most guys, like most of my guy friends who are single in Uptown, in anywhere, in New York and LA, they will tell you this curvy woman that's like athletic build, that's in shape, that has, either great breasts, or like natural great breasts, or like a great full butt. Like they think that is so much more sexy than this girl. They're like, it's womanly. Whereas like
But it's
I
changed.
listen to you talk. Whereas these like really stick figure girls, like they look like little girls. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to like crawl in bed with that girl because I could like break her over my knee.
Yeah. No, I think generally speaking,
You
men in
didn't
general
say this show
prefer-
is going to be like this, management.
I think that men in general prefer women with curves. Is this
Now.
correct? All the men in the studio?
But that's now. Think
Chris?
about it. Like in the 80s and
Okay,
90s.
yes.
How about
different.
Jane Russell, Marilyn Monroe,
They want
in
you to fill out a pair of
Gentlemen Prefer
jeans.
Blondes? Do you remember that? When they sang Diamond, did you ever see more curves in your life in that?
Yeah.
And I didn't see
It's
anybody
beautiful.
saying, "Oh, they're too fat."
Well, because that was what was in there.
There's a
It's what
song
was-
that says, "The bigger the figure, the more I can handle." The more I can
More-
love. The bigger the figure,
Could
the
more-
better, the bigger. You remember that old, it's an Italian song? The more I can love, the bigger the figure, the more I can love.
I can't sing, but I got you, girl.